I just told them, I go, look, I'm a talented artist. I know I'm going to kill it, but I also know that I'm not going to make any money, and I'm pushing 30 here, and I need to get as much education under my belt in this year of assisting as possible. She was like, I'll give you all the education you can handle, kid. And I was like, done.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode on the Divinely Disruptive podcast. I'm your host, Jane Powers. This podcast is all about leveling up your life and creating space to dream again. When we talk about dreaming, I feel like we all need that encouragement to keep believing because we get so distracted with social media, stress, paying bills, and this is why I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, Justin Wesley. Not only is he a master hairstylist, he is the owner of Wesley Slay Salon. I'm so excited to share his light with you all, and especially in the city of Vegas, we all need community. Justin, welcome to our fabulous bougie studio.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate it.
And this hair, I'm like, you look straight out of the Barbie movie.
Well,
is your name Ken? Excuse me.
Few people call me that when I'm walking down the street. I started answering to that, to be honest. I'm
Yeah.
Like, what's up? But yeah.
And this face, I'm like,
well,
welcome. Okay. And shout out to Danny Reeves
yes,
for
for
connecting
introducing us. Absolutely. We go way back. Her and I, we met modeling a long time ago.
Oh my
like
God.
18 years ago.
Wait,
something
can
like
we
that,
unravel
really
that?
long
I'm
time
like,
ago,
first
yeah.
of all, who's Justin? Because I stalked you on Instagram.
Right.
I know you're beyond just a hair master. So let's kind of dig deep a little bit.
Yeah.
Who is he?
Well, I'm a guy from a very small town in Louisiana. So I didn't really fit in there, to say the least. I was always interested in hair. I was the only boy out of 13 grandkids. I had 3 sisters. My parents were separated. And in the summers when I would go to my dad's, he worked shift work, and I was in charge of making sure my sisters got up and were ready to go do whatever when he got home. And I would full out curl their hair. I would make sure that they were like on point at all times because we were poor and I didn't want them being like judged or made fun of the way I was. So I would make sure that they were like to the nines on a Wednesday. I didn't care. But I would often say, don't tell dad I did that. Because he's a country boy, he was a mechanic, a race car driver and all of that. And, I always wanted him to have respect for me. And so I kind of like rode the fence as a child. And then as I grew up in that small town, I was constantly searching for ways to get out of there, and I was working in my aunt's tobacco outlet. And I think I was maybe 16, 17. And I had gone through puberty and finally put some weight on, and like I wasn't knees and elbows anymore. And this interesting thing started happening. I started trying to dream about my future and how I was gonna like be able to do all the things that I wanted to do, because I didn't have that example. Like I said, we grew up very humble. It's a good way to put it. My mom had to really work. She had a few husbands that didn't have the greatest health, and so my mom ended up being someone that worked 3 jobs to make sure that her kids were taken care of, and her husband was okay and everything like that. And so I did everything that I could to make sure that I took the weight off of her by working and trying to figure out my own life and doing my own thing and paying for my own cars and my own clothes and things like that, just so that she didn't have to struggle as hard. And like going back to like working at the cashier counter or what have you, this thing started happening where these people would come in and they would go, have you ever thought about being a model? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I was so insecure. I was so introverted. Definitely like scared to like go into crowds, into public, stuff like that, and I'm just like, no, what do you mean? And then it just kept coming up. People kept saying it. I'm like, okay, people are seeing something that I don't see. Right. And so I decided to get out of my tiny little town, and I went down to Lafayette to go to college, and I was majoring in psychology. And I was walking through the mall one day and somebody comes up to me and was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about being a model?" And I was like, "All right, I've heard this like a billion times now. I should just take a shot." And I was like, I mean, yeah. And so they invited me to this like event, and it ended up being like a competition in New Orleans. And I think it was something like 2,500 models came to this huge convention center, and like every agency from all over the country was there. MTV, VH1, BET, Ford, Elite, like everyone. I think it was like 37 different agencies were there. And I was like dying inside, flop sweat, the whole thing. They made us do like a photo shoot, and then they had us come out and walk on a runway, which I had never done in my life. And it was the largest runway I've ever seen in my life, because it was this huge square, because all the agencies had to have a place to sit, and they were just sitting at the edge of the thing watching you. And you have to go and you stop in front of each one and you get off. You're like, oh my God. And then you get to watch everyone else do it. And I ended up winning that whole thing. I got the most callbacks out of any guy. And then only one girl got one callback more than me. So I was like, all right, maybe I can use this to get out of here. And I decided that I was going to leave Louisiana and go to the West Coast and try to figure it out.
Like, I don't know if you believe in karma, but as I talk and listen to you right now, I'm like, you must have had some good karma or just good juju all over you, because even as you talked about your childhood, thank you for going so deep, because people need context. They think
Yeah.
success, everyone thinks this, but you must have come from money or you
No.
must have had a handout. But the
Yeah.
reality is, it's like, no, honey, I probably grew up with maybe $5 a week.
Yeah.
But you definitely had favor over your life. And the
Yes.
fact that you were like, honey, I was just trying to take care of the girls, making sure they look good so they wouldn't get bullied. And then people kept saying, I look good. I mean, we're all about self-confidence, but I love how you weren't even trying and people saw the gift in you. And here you are now.
And that, I feel like that is one of the catalysts that's kind of taken me through my life, is going through trying to find my way. And there's always this person that gets put in your path that just shifts your perspective and shifts you over. Because to be honest, I was told by family and friends, you might want to have a backup plan, like, don't get too crazy about this. That's like, very few people make it in this kind of stuff. And I don't take that as a attack. What I take that as, this is your fear coming at me. Like, your fear of failure, your fear of not making it to where you wanted to make it, your fears about having your kids too early and not being able to take care of them, is why you're telling me this. And so every time I would hear someone say that, I would literally just think, that's what you think, but I think differently. And I would make it a point to use that as like fuel, as a catalyst, like, I'm going to show them, not in like a way like in your face, but like, look, you really can do whatever you set your mind to, as long as you have the drive, the willpower, courage in yourself to be able to take that step. And, there's always going to be fear that shows up, but you can also use that too, to your advantage. Like I said, I was terrified to go into crowds or be in large groups, and I was always feeling judged and extreme social anxiety. So one of the things that I did was, I have always been one that literally just face my fear. If it's something that I'm scared of, I'm going to go towards it. Except when I was a child, I would run from it. And so once I got a little older and started like setting my sights on like where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, I applied for college. I was like, this is maybe one of the ways I'm going to be able to get out. And me and several of my friends applied to the same college, and I was the only one that got in. And I was like, at first I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to go do this like all by myself with, I don't know anyone. Oh Lord, I'm already terrified to even go hang out like with my own high school friends. And then I thought a little further, and I was like, actually, no. this is the perfect opportunity for you to go and be someone completely different. No one here knows you. They don't know your past. They don't know, your fears, your failures, your history, your family, all of those kind of things. They have no idea. So as long as you can put on a face and you can become what you want to be, that's going to be their perception, you know? And it was really hard. It was a fake it till you make it kind of thing. To this day, I will still, like, if I walk into a room to speak, just flop sweats, like nervous, the whole thing. And then once you get kind of going, you're like, no, I can do this. I'm okay. There's always that part of it. But yeah, I just kind of like walked into it head first and with a smile on my face and was like, no, I'm here. This is what I'm doing, you know? And then that kind of got me a little bit over like the social anxiety, not completely. And then the next most terrifying thing I could do is leave the country and go on a modeling contract to a country that I do not speak their language. My first contract was in Singapore, thank God, because one of their, main languages is English. So I was able to kind of go into that. But then once I went to Hong Kong, different story. Like, as soon as you get out of like central Hong Kong, it's no longer English everywhere. It's characters. And I'm like, oh, how am I going to, this was before iPhone. Like, I didn't have a smartphone. I had a map, I had MapQuest and stuff, printing my directions and trying to walk around and figure it out. But I did, and each time you have one of those wins, it's just a catalyst to keep moving forward and keep growing and keep developing.
No, and just even as you're sharing, I'm just imagining little boy Justin, right? Like getting all these opportunities, but not even having, all this experience or have seen people do it, but you were just picked out, I like to call it God favor, right? Is certain people just have this gift. They were born with it. And you may not know it right away, but I do believe, as you mentioned, when you encounter the right people that can see that talent, that is like a freaking guardian angel, because we see the gifts, we see the talents within ourselves, but it does take the right partnership and the right tribe to really bring it out of you.
Yeah.
So it's no accident that one thing led to another, but Justin, like, we just met in real life today, but I love your humility even through your success. And I'll be the first to say, I want to see more people like you shining and thriving in the city of Vegas, because so often we want to only show the highlights of our lives.
Yeah.
And, as we talked about, the opposite of bragging and simply celebrating the wins, that's what you do. And so I want to be around people who are doing the work, that are walking the walk, talking the talk. And then I told you off the record, I cried my eyes out today having my first life coach session. And it's like, whoa, this is a lot, but I know where I want to go and I know who I'm going to be. Therefore, if I don't deal with the, the garbage, the baggage, and the BS that we all have, right?
Yes.
I will not be able to get there. So I want to talk about, mindset and what you had to do to not only experience all the things that you were given, but handle it. Like, that's a lot of opportunities so quick.
Yeah. I can't say I always handled it with grace. I think I spoke about this earlier. I was in Hong Kong and just kind of like feeling down that I didn't book a job today. I went on like freaking 8 go-sees and, traveled from one side of Hong Kong to the other side, like just exhausted. And I'm walking home, and I lived in Central, and that's like the high point. And so I'm like trekking up all these stairs, like just kind of feeling sorry for myself. And I get to the corner of the street and I'm waiting to cross over, and I literally see a blind man leading his blind wife across the street. And in that moment, it just hit me. I was like, dude, where is your gratitude? Like, get yourself together. Oh, you didn't book a job today, but you can see you're a model. You're in a foreign country. You're able to walk down the street. You're able to do all of these things, when no one really expected you to do these things, and it's in those moments that it really does kind of check you, as long as you're aware, as long as you're present in your life and you're present in the places that you're at, those are the opportunities that we get to be able to see like real struggle, real difficulty. Because a lot of times we're like, oh my gosh, I have to, blah, blah, blah. I'm running late for work. Do you want a Starbucks? It's like, we're late, but we can get Starbucks, right? So how bad is it really? And so I take those kind of experiences and I hold them, and I remind myself of them whenever I am in a different situation where I'm just tired and overworked and feel like no one understands like how much is on my plate, every day consistently, and how many people I'm trying to hold together and keep employed and educate and uplift and all of that. And you just get to this point where sometimes you feel completely just drained and you have nothing left. And, you start to like kind of second guess things and, am I doing the right thing? And then you go, no, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Everything you've done in your life has brought you to this moment so that you can touch the lives of people around you in this exact way,
No, and speaking of gratitude, Justin, I feel like that's such a necessary aspect of life we need till the end of time.
Yeah.
Right? Like people think, oh, when we make it or when we hit that dollar amount or when we open up enough studios or have that house and car. Back to gratitude, I've noticed even myself when I don't have gratitude, I could have more than ever and still be miserable. But if I have gratitude, I could have less than ever, but my mindset, my heart set, it's just in another realm where I feel beyond fulfilled.
Right.
So that mindset, I feel like truly is everything. So I love your heart, just, as you talk about your journey, your success, and even being in the hair world, I commend you because to do it, I don't know, beyond 10 years, 10 going plus, like for people listening and watching that maybe want to start a career in hair or like we talked off the record, go to school for hair, God bless them all. What kind of advice would you tell them? Because you're talking to a makeup artist, dabbled in hairstyling. It is not for the weak.
No.
So what would you advise for future hairstylists?
So my advice is don't look at, I know it's what do they call it? A vocational thing. It ain't. It's not. It takes a lot, and you have to really think about what you want to do in that career. Cause there's so many different avenues, you can be an extension artist. You can be a barber. You can be, a master colorist, a master stylist. You can be someone that works hourly for sports clips because you have a family and kids and you want to schedule with benefits. There's nothing bad about working at sports clips. It fits that person's life, and that's one of the toxic things that I do see in the beauty industry is when someone reaches a certain level, they kind of look back and look down at, oh, they work at sports clips or they work at great clips. Nothing against any of these companies. I'm actually about to say something really nice about them. There is a place for every type of stylist, and it's all about what you want to invest in your career. And that's truly where it's going to take you. It's what do you want to invest? How much of your time do you want to spend doing this? Is this something that you're passionate about? Is this something that is just like a hobby that you like doing and you're like, this would be an easy career? No, that does not translate. Just because you like to do your own hair and your sisters or your friends for the nights out does not mean that you can be in an environment like that, where it's every type of personality that can exist is going to sit in your chair, is going to work next to you, and the chair next to you could be your boss. And you have to learn how to navigate all of that and stay at your best, stay positive, not fall into the negativity and the toxicity, because it's easy to fall into. You're hungry, you're on your feet all day, you're tired. Mary was 20 minutes late for her appointment, but Sally was 20 minutes early, and now they're smashing together and Sally's giving me side eye, and you have to be able to be like, so sorry just running a little bit behind, had a few unexpected things. Can I get you a water, coffee, tea? Can we give you a complimentary hair mask? Something like that. But inside you're like, geez, but out here, you have to keep it professional, and you have to be able to communicate with people and solve issues. Communication is one of the biggest things. It's huge in our industry. And if you don't know how to communicate, you're going to be faced with a lot of challenges, because when somebody's sitting in your chair and they want to tell you what they want, they don't always know how to explain it, And so those are kind of the things that you really have to look at when you're going into that career, because you can be in the top 10%, like me, celebrity stylists, salon owners, stuff like that. But it takes a different mindset altogether. You have to have a business mind, know HR, know how to clean toilets, how to do, ordering and, managing inventory and managing staff and payroll and all of these things until you get big enough that you can outsource all of those things,
No, and you dropped a lot of gems right now, so you better have like a program coming up soon. But I was like, that was really gold right there. And again, the people listening and watching, my hope is every guest that I interview, that not only do you get to share your success story, but there's gems that they can pick up and apply to their lives. And, similar to makeup artistry, you don't just become an expert or a professional by accident.
Right.
And so as you shared that knowledge, it sounds like psychology, emotional intelligence, having patience and empathy are also necessary layers to the job. Because I remember having a few high profile clients myself, and, God bless my husband, but he's like, how was it? How did it go? I was like, I'll tell you about my feelings later, but right now it's about this client, and I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to smile. But I'll update you later. And the point is, when you're in the zone with the client, it is all about them. We've all heard that saying, the customers are always right. And to be successful, I feel like there is a layer of humility that we need to carry. And let's face it, beauty, fashion, it's such a toxic, glamorous industry. And people do initially enter for that quick money or that quick fame. Oh, if I, do makeup on Beyonce, or I do makeup on who knows what, Kim Kardashian, I'll make it. But we all know that's not the case.
No, that's not the case at all. In the beauty industry, yes. Overall, especially back when I was getting my start, when Danny was getting her start, there was a level of toxicity that was almost expected. Like, you knew going into it that you were going to be put in certain situations that you had to know how to navigate professionally so that you didn't ruin stuff, because you have people in power that are above you, and you're this being that everybody wants a piece of in that moment in time and all of that. And they do things that are unethical, and you have to be able to stand in your own power, right? And have your own moral compass and not compromise for that. Yes, you're going to make one person not really happy with you, but the feeling that you have from being able to stand there and speak your truth and hold your ground versus the feeling you have when you don't, that's life changing.
And it's really refreshing too that you talk about moral compass. And this is why I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. Is like Danny, I love her. She's like my beautiful guardian fairy angel that guides me. But one thing that I respect is success, but people who have success, power, and morals. I feel like it's a very bizarre formula that not a lot of people carry. So let's dig deeper. How do you, stand out in the game, but at the same time not lose who you really are?
So I only operate from my place. I don't really want to say like a moral high ground, because that makes me think that I'm like above something else. But I do operate from a place of honesty, respect, giving dignity to the people that are in my space. everyone has to start somewhere. Like I have an 18-year-old assistant, I have a 21-year-old assistant. My previous assistant was 36, right? So they are all in a different place in their life, you know? And you have to be able to look at each individual and say, like, what do you need? And mentally yourself, what does this person need? She lacks confidence. She lacks self-esteem because she's young, she's new, she's nervous. So I that. And then once you start seeing it, then you just start empowering it, empowering it, empowering it. And then you have some that are like, I know everything, right? And then like, I know that's really cute, but you don't. So you don't. And those you have to have a little bit more direct kind of contact with, you know, because they can handle it. You know, where the one that's not quite as confident can't, you know, they're going to like kind of break. But my ultimate goal is to get them all kind of in the same space so that we're working as a cohesive team where there's not this sense of like competition. I'm better than her, she's better than me, or, you know, this one is da 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 da, an expert at this, at that. There is something we can all learn from each other. There are things that an assistant is going to come in straight out of school and a perspective that they're going to have that I haven't thought of because they just got out of high school. You know what I'm saying? They've been immersed in a completely different generation, a completely different like fashion, self-expression, sexual identities, pronouns, like all the thing. Like, I'm trying to keep up with it and I'm trying to do it. Even as a gay man, sometimes I get confused, you know, but I try to be very inclusive with everyone that's in the salon, and just give them the best chance that I can. Now, I don't expect all of them to stay with me. You know, as a matter of fact, most of them are going to go, you know, and that's kind of a hard thing for me, but it also teaches me something. Um, I always go back to my childhood with these kind of things. And so after I've had the salon for a couple of years and I've gone through like 5 assistants and I've had renters come and go, I'm like, you know what? It's really helping me out with my abandonment issues for sure. You know, like each time one of these people learn, grow, and leave, I have less of an emotional attachment to it. And I find gratitude in I took this stylist that I saw something unique in, and they learned and they grew and they got to a point where they were confident enough to go out on their own and open a studio. Or something I would love to see is for one of my you know, stylists like become super successful and go open their own salon. I want them to leave my space better than I am. I want to feel like I got competition next to me, you know, even though I don't want them to be competitive. I want to feel like, okay, girl, I see you, you know. You killed that, you know. That's really what I strive for with my team, no matter what position they have, no matter if they're a renter, a commission stylist, an assistant, an esthetician. I'm all about, you know, lifting them up so that they are doing their job from a place of power, from a place of confidence, from a place of self-respect, dignity. And then whenever they're operating from that place, that translates into the interaction with their clients. So like if you go to like my salon webpage or Google or Yelp or any of those things and you look at the reviews, there's something consistent that you'll see throughout every one of them. And it's, oh my gosh, I love the vibe of this place. It's so calming. Everyone's so inviting. Everyone's so kind. I just feel at home. I love coming here. I'm definitely gonna be back. Everyone's such a great team. They all work together. Like that's the consistent theme that you see. And that was the intention that I had when I opened this space, because I do come from places that weren't that, you know, that didn't have strong leaders, you know, that the leadership there was really very much about like, how am I going to be successful? How am I going to utilize these people on my team to make me a success, right? How am I going to utilize these people to get the house that I want, to drive the car that I want, to get the recognition that I want? And for me, that's a no. That's just, I can't operate from that place, because that's just not who I am, first off. And secondly, I've seen what it turns people into, That's when the clicking and the cattiness starts to come in. That's when, people start to look for other opportunities or feel underappreciated or not appreciated at all. Like, this person doesn't care if I succeed, if I fail. They just want my rent check, or they just want the commission off of me, And I've seen stylists leave the industry because of that. They're like, I just don't think this is for me. I'm going to go do real estate, or it's a thing that everyone is like, if this doesn't work out, I can always do real estate. I feel like that in Vegas. So I decided that I could do it better. I could do it different. I could operate a space that everyone feels like they're part of, they're invested in, they're welcome. It doesn't matter if you're a multimillionaire or you come in your pajamas. Everyone has the same feeling, welcome.
I'm like a little upset over here because I'm like, why didn't I meet you straight out of beauty school? I'm like, that sounds like a place I want to go to, because, right? Looking at hair inspiration on Instagram, I know that doesn't make me a hairstylist, but I'm always daydreaming. I'm like, man, if I could go back in time, I wish I could have met you, because you talked about leadership. I want to pause right there. When you have wrong or poor leadership, it just sucks the living spirit, zest, fire you had. Mm-hmm. And it's so true. I've seen it. I've been there, where all of a sudden I'm questioning my identity. I'm questioning my passion. Like, I've always been very charismatic, very flamboyant, very into fashion, colors, mix and match. I mean, I had red hair, not on purpose, but I, didn't know what toner was back in the day. Okay. Ask my husband. I'm like, I didn't know Asians had red hair or carrot head or whatever. Ginger. Excuse me. I didn't know Asian gingers existed.
You guys
that
exist
was
in
me.
nature too.
So is it? Okay, perfect. I'm a unicorn. And so the point was, even though I didn't know what the heck I was doing, I wanted to explore.
Yeah.
Same with makeup. I didn't know how to blend or put the right colors together, but I had so much excitement for exploring and creativity. But again, I won't name the retailers or what place, but I've been to all of the things under the sun. And just in my case, I'm not saying it's for everybody. I noticed when I didn't have the right leadership, mentors, people even being like, hey, Jane, your makeup looks great today. Not to say I need the validation, but once in a while, I'd like a little encouragement.
Yeah.
And so just the way you handle your team, your business, I mean, that's incredible. Like, I hope you're building something beautiful. It's a safety home for people to explore.
That is a fact. I actually have had my younger stylists that come in say, I feel like this is a safe environment for me to be in. And that's one of the main reasons why I chose to come here, but that all goes back to the mentor that I chose as well. When I came out of hair school, it was a little bit late in the game. I was 37-ish.
That was last year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, 27-ish. Jesus, where am I? So I was around 27, finishing up hair school. So everyone in my school was, coming straight out of high school. So I knew that as an assistant, I wasn't going to make any money. So I did a little bit different. I didn't go and just pass out resumes. I'm looking for a job. I went to every salon that I thought I would like working at, and I asked if the owner was available. If the owner would not speak to me, I did not want to work there. The places that the owner did speak to me, I just told them, I go, look, I'm a talented artist. I know I'm going to kill it, but I also know that I'm not going to make any money, and I'm pushing 30 here, and I need to get as much education under my belt in this year of assisting as possible. If you can give me education, I'm going to kill it. And so I ended up breaking it down to 2 different salon owners. And out of the 2, Her name is Joanne Buffalino. I love her to this day. We still talk, and she was like, "I'll give you all the education you can handle, kid." And I was like, done. This is where I'm going to work. This is where I'm going to work. And she was true to that. Every month she had in-salon education for me. She would send me to upstate New York to classes, like 3-day long classes with like salon points from ordering color and all of that stuff. And I was true to my word too. You know, whenever I started there, I was like kind of slow, and she's like, "I need you to pick up the pace." And I'm like, "Pick up the pace? Like, oh my God, how could I possibly go faster?" And she's like, "You can, I promise." And I was like, by the time I left, I was doing like 10 colors a day for her, you know, and like I did every color that came in for her, you know, and that's where I got my foundation. And even though I was going through it there, you know, I was living off my savings, you know, I was making like $1,200 a month living in Buffalo, New York. And I basically would just go to the grocery store, get a 12 pack of chicken breasts, some nice, veggies and potatoes. And that's what I ate for the week. I came back to Vegas looking like a bobblehead doll, but I was fit AF and I had an education. Right. And so she believed in me so much that it was impossible not to believe in myself. Right. And so when I came back to Vegas, I was like, all right, we got to get it together. How are you going to get your clientele together? You just spent a couple years getting educated. You ran out of savings. You know, we're coming back. Let's figure it out, you know? And I went back into nightlife and dancing, you know, until I got all my background checks done to go back into nightlife. And I used that as a way to build my clientele. I just got cocktail waitresses, bussers, bartenders, management, stuff like that. And then when I got enough money saved, I opened like my studio, and that's how I started, and just gradually weaned myself away from the toxicity of nightlife because I got what I needed from it. You know, I had enough money to get a down payment for my house. I was able to live comfortably while developing my business and building a clientele so that I didn't have to struggle anymore. I was tired of struggling, you know? So I was like, I'll put in the work. I'll work 3 jobs. I'll work in nightlife. I'll get up, start hair at noon, be done at 4. At that time, I was also working for Elton John he was here for 7. I worked for him for 7 years at the Coliseum. And so I would leave the salon at 4, go to Elton for 5:30, work there until 11, go to, you know, whatever nightclub I was until I got off, go home, sleep for 4 hours, and then do it again, you know, until I could no longer do it. You know, I worked myself into the ground, and then that's not for everyone. You have to be very strong. I'm not advocating for, you know, just working yourself to the bone and not physically taking care of yourself. You do have to know your boundaries. You know, you do have to know what you can physically, mentally, and emotionally handle, you know, and when it got to the point that I could no longer physically, emotionally, mentally handle being in all of those places and having that much demand on me, I go, okay, now I'm done. And I walked away from that and did hair and never looked back, you know? And that's how I just kept going forward, you know? And then there's been times that it's been all over the place, you know, like I was trying to transition to LA, you know, and I was working in Summerlin half the month. And then I was working at Kimbo in West Hollywood. He had just opened a new flagship store there, or salon on North Robertson. And I was staying with another podcaster I was talking to you, Michaela Gordon. She lived out there, and I was like crashing with her for a couple of weeks until I got it. And then the pandemic happened, and LA just said, bloop, we're shut. We're closed. No more. I'm like, I can't do $500 haircuts on the sidewalk. I'm sorry. You know, like I just can't do that. And it was risky to like go there, get an Airbnb for the week, pay for all of that, bring all your product, travel out, book your appointments, and then half the people on the book get COVID, you know? And so I said, all right, I have to recalibrate this. And I came back and I just took a chair in a salon that I knew would be safe during COVID and stuff. And again, I started seeing the things that I was like, I can't continue doing. I can do this better. Not that I'm better than any other salon owner. I could do this better for me. It will work better if I go and I open up my own place and I run it the way I would like to work, and I feel like when you're operating from that kind of place, you attract that same energy in. And what I do find is the people that come into my space, they're a lot like me. They're just in a different place in their journey, and I'm just like a little far advanced than they are. And it's amazing because I can give them these little gems and these, secrets that I learned along the way that made my life easier in the industry so that they don't have to go through all of that, Um, and then the people that don't really align weed themselves out. It's rare that I have to ask someone to go. When you don't resonate and you don't align with the energy and the vibe and the direction of the room and the space, you feel uncomfortable. You feel like the outsider, right? And
No.
so
I'm like, as you're talking, I'm like, you are not just talking about a career as a hairstylist. I'm like, no, you're talking about life right now. Yeah. But just even as you're sharing right now, it's just very, what's the word? I feel very inspired because I had moments of, not being grateful, as we all do.
Mm-hmm.
But I can just sense people listening and watching. They're almost mind blown that you had to do all the things to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to pause right there because people think, oh, okay, I have a goal, I have a vision. I just want to get there the fastest, right? There's a difference between being efficient with your time and trying to rush.
Exactly.
And so what I'm hearing right now is even that amazing mentor you had, like literally, you have such favor over your life. Thank you, God, in the universe. But this woman obviously saw something in you to share all her secrets.
Yeah.
Fly you to New York. Like, that's a rarity. So shout out to that female. I hope you're blessed with good health and more.
She is.
But
she
look
has
at
an
you
amazing
now.
family,
So it's like, look at you unraveling onto other people. Like, because of her and her generosity, like from an outsider listening to your story right now, it's incredible. Like, this woman clearly impacted you in such an intimate way. Look at who you are now.
I've had so many people that come into my life that way. And it's exactly when you need them for the exact reason why you need them, And I mean, I truly think from the time I was a child, like I marched to my own drum, like my own beat. I did my own thing. I did not follow anyone. I remember I remember things in images and photographs, so I can access memories a little bit differently. I'm grateful for that. I can remember being a child and just wanting to be by myself, like 3 years old, walking down the sidewalk in cowboy boots and a diaper, not caring about what was going on. And there was the mailman always seemed to find me. I don't know if he was real or if he was a guardian angel or what. Only thing I remember from him is like here down, but somehow a mailman always found me and like bring me back home. But I was always just like off in the clouds, off in space, just doing my own thing. And like, I wasn't like anyone else, And so even as a child, I recognized that I had certain gifts that I was born with. I could see in people their true self. I could feel their true intentions, and obviously as a child that's very confusing, but as you grow and you learn to navigate yourself as a being, as a human here, you recognize patterns, and I started to trust that, and I use that a lot in my daily life, with clients, with employees, just going throughout my day, people walk into your life and sometimes it's just for you to help them. And it can be a very small transaction. Like you have no idea. I just feel like whenever you feel called to, you do, absolutely.
When you said that, I was like, I keep thinking about the word empath, right? Intuition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you're bringing this up because I don't know if you know, but I'm an empath. The moment I talked to you on the phone, I was like, I love this man. I don't know where he came from, but I felt like, okay, we get each other. So for people listening and watching that maybe don't know they're an empath, but they are, because you said it perfectly. It's like you have this gift, but you don't really know what to do with it when you're young, just like your body, just like your appearance, you know, you don't know what to do with it. But for people navigating, because I'm also low-key asking you for advice for myself as well, how do you stay intuitive, stay empathic, but protect your energy? Because I mean, you can ask anyone that I'm close to. When I'm having a bad day, it's not me. Someone's having a bad day, or someone dropped something on my shoulders and I felt like I needed to carry it for them. I don't know why. But how do you navigate as an empath with highly intuitive, you know, gifts?
Yeah. I have several of the gifts, and my empath is very strong. And I think a lot of it is the fact that I'm touching people's heads all day. I am in contact with your crown, you know, and the way I had to learn. So the way I was gifted, it caused a lot of confusion for me, in especially my teens and early 20s, even in a little bit into my early 30s. I, like you, I would be like going through my day and then all of a sudden feel rage. And I'm like, whoa, why are you so angry right now? You know, and I couldn't find where's that coming from, but it didn't feel like it was mine. And but I didn't understand, you know, I could be like driving down the freeway and I feel it and it's not me, it's the person next to you in the car. You know, and when you're that highly sensitive, you have to learn how to protect your energy. And the best way to do that is draw boundaries and trust your own empath energy, your own intuition. If someone's coming into your space that you do feel comfortable with and they feel comfortable with you and they start sharing and stuff like that, that's more of a safe exchange, you know. But if you're picking up that this person has negative intentions, you want to shield yourself. You want to not fully engage in that conversation, in that interaction. And what I like to do is literally picture myself, you know, with a white light around me, and this is my shield, this is my protection, this is my barrier. You're here. I can interact with you. I can talk to you about what's going on with you, but I'm not going to invest in that. I'm not going to attach to that. Right. And then early on, I would use like things to help, like sea salt spray or something like that on my hands just to get it off. You see, I wear beads. This is what I do. I make these bracelets in my spare time as a way to like de-stress, but they help me because they're, even if you don't believe it, that, you know, crystals and things like that have power, maybe you can believe that we all vibrate at a frequency, right? You know, this table has a frequency, this microphone has a frequency, this chakra has a frequency, your throat chakra has a frequency, your heart chakra, you know, and we can tune to those frequencies and pick up on those frequencies. And so do these things, you know, so they have some of the similar frequencies as to what we need, you know, so communication, throat chakra, I'm wearing, you know, lapis lazuli and blue. And, you know, as a healer, I like to wear pre-night because it's like the healer's healer, you know, because we're giving constantly, you know, and it can deplete us, and you know, we do need replenishment. So I do protect my space though. So say I have a great client that's in my chair and they're just on one, you know, they're going through it. They're going through a divorce. Their kid is having problems because they are going through a divorce and they're just giving it all to me and everything's coming from work. And that happens a lot because I'm grounded. I have the ability to listen and actually pick out what the real problem is, not the frustration. It's the root that we're looking for, right? And I have to make a conscious choice that I'm like, this one's a lot today. She's a lot, right? You know, and so I will actively listen without opening myself, right? Because it's just too much. So I kind of have my shield up and just kind of let it go over me. And sometimes it'll look like I'm not even paying attention just because it's like, but I am listening to what they're saying. I'm just not taking it on or absorbing it, you know? And then there's times where it's someone that you're really close with and you care about this person and what they're going through, and you want them to be able to navigate it in a healthy way. So I have, clients where I have whole families. I collect entire family groups. There's one family I literally have 5 generations of a family. I always have mother, father, kids, grandmother, the whole thing. And so when you have a lot of those full groups, you get it from every person in the group. And so all of a sudden you're in this this position of having a perspective that no one else in this family, this relationship has, right? She's feeling this, he's feeling that, they're dumping it here. The kids are starting to get involved. They're starting to notice and things like that. And when you have that kind of relationship, you can go, look, I'm going to be honest with you. You are self-sabotaging right now. Hardcore. You need this from him. He does not know how to give you that, right? So you have to communicate in a way with him that he understands. And so those people, I am opening myself up and letting an attachment form so that I can guide them in a way that's healthy for them, healthy for their relationships, healthy for us. We're having a healthy exchange, and it helps them process a little bit differently and get a little bit different, perspective again on what they're going through. And a lot of times you see the instant recognition of when you say something and they're like, oh my gosh, I do that. You're right. I do that. You're right. So it's really about how you choose to show up for people and setting healthy boundaries for yourself. If you know that it's Saturday, you don't have anything else to give, that's okay. You don't owe anybody anything like that. That's yours. That's your gift that you're sharing, right? You don't owe it to anyone, and if you're completely tapped out, if you've had all of these kind of things going on all week, it's okay to say, girl, I feel you. I am going through it too. Can I get you a coffee? Would you like a glass of champagne? Something like that. You don't always have to engage. So really it's about you picking and choosing what you can handle and choose to handle,
No, and thank you for sharing. I had to selfishly ask that question because, as you can imagine, not just the podcast, but even in my daily life, I've always wanted to be like the savior and, the light worker, or, I'm not Jesus or Gandhi or Mother Teresa, but just something in me, like yourself. I just always wanted to take care of people, even when I was drowning.
Yeah.
And so that idea of being intuitive, being empathic, but at the same time setting boundaries, I love the way you explained it, is you can still be present for people. You can still listen, but you don't have to attach yourself to every piece of somebody.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so necessary that we speak about this, because living in Vegas, I've changed my narrative. Instead of complaining about what I don't find in this city, I'm going to focus on what I can find in this city, including healthy friendships, healthy attachments. And you brought it up. So I've also had abandonment issues. And, we talked about using comedy. Okay. Yeah. Abandonment.
When you were telling me that, I was thinking, when you're striving for the perfection, striving to fix, striving to be the savior, it's typically because you didn't have a savior. It's because you didn't have someone that was there to guide you, or you didn't feel like they supported you. They may have been there, like present in your home, but they didn't actually support the things you needed them to support you for, or validate you in the way that you needed to be validated. They didn't show the love the way you needed it to be shown. And so whenever I think we come from those kind of places, we try to be perfect. We strive for perfection. Well, that doesn't exist, right? It doesn't. We can get as close as possible, but we're never going to attain that. And so you're constantly chasing this thing that you're never going to get. And so you have to be able to pull back from that and say, why do I feel like I need to be perfect all the time? Who is? No one is. Nothing is. It doesn't exist in nature. So what makes me think that I'm going to get there? I'm not. I never will. But what I can do is my absolute best and operate from my highest good and for the highest good of the people that I choose to have in my circle and to keep in my life, and as long as we're doing that, we're constantly lifting each other up. We're not dragging each other down,
I didn't ask you to read my mind, but you just went in. You're like, listen, sister, okay? But you just keep highlighting such amazing, necessary topics of life, because this idea of perfectionism, I'm going to even add that with the word performance, okay?
Yeah.
And let me just take a moment to call myself out first, and then go ahead and call yourself up if you had a moment. But I just had this rude awakening recently as well, is okay, perfectionism, performance, you're absolutely correct. We have life almost upside down. We see these hyper overachievers, these fit bodies, and these successful people that just brag about their wealth, literally brag about their wealth. And I'm like, oh, I envy them, I think. But then when you start doing the inner healing and the inner working, you start to realize, oh, shoot, they're like me. Why am I chasing over this delusional image of success when really it probably has nothing to do with your higher calling or your higher purpose? If that's truly what you're called to do, cool. Get your money, go be on the top of the castle and brag about, who you are. But I've noticed the most secure, confident individuals, they're completely opposite. They don't need to be the loudest person in the room. And we've all heard this saying, insecurity is loud, confidence is silent.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning to walk in that. I'm not there yet, but I'm learning to walk in that, where even my demeanor is shifting. Even the podcast, as you watch, I don't know if you've seen episode 1 yet, but I always tell people, check out episode 1, because I don't recognize myself. Not even how I look, just my demeanor. And I'm like, look at little Jane, she's growing up.
Yeah.
So for you too, like, even in your own experience, how did you get or break the mold, I guess, from perfectionist in performing, especially going into modeling and beauty?
So that was a little bit of a transition for me, like leaving the modeling, performing, that lifestyle, and going into something that's more of service, really. You're going from literally being on a stage and thousands of people watching you, and everyone wants a piece and this and that. And if we're being really honest, there's something that does give you, especially when you come from a background like that, where you like didn't have nothing, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I'm making it off my face, or my body, or what have you, it inflates this like idea of yourself, and whenever you have to like step out of that, it is a shift in mindset, because again, you have to pump yourself up to be in those spaces because you're not the only gorgeous one there, right? There's 9 other gorgeous, beautiful ladies that are walking on the runway, or 10 other freaking studs walking down the runway. And every single one of them has an insecurity, every single one of them. And that's what we don't think about, because we're sitting there like in our mind, like, oh my God, what do I look like? What about this? What about that? Am I walking right? Am I pigeon toed? Am I stickle foot? Am I whatever? And like everyone else has the same thoughts in their head. They all have the same thoughts, but we're looking at them thinking, oh my gosh, you're incredible. Like, I wish I had your da 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 da, or I wish I was as tall as you. I wish I was as thin as you. I wish I could move my shoulders and my body like you. Yeah, but they can't do what you do, right? So we all have our own thing that makes us unique and makes us valuable and makes us just be able to show up in that way that we need to, if we can just recognize that, if we could just see it, that we're all the same on the inside, as far as being insecure or, having to transition. Like, So many people have had to make transitions, especially since the pandemic. Like, and I feel like that's actually really made a positive shift in a lot of people's lives. I mean, you could go either way if you want. You know, you can find the gratitude, or you can be like, COVID ruined everything. You know, I learned a lot about myself during COVID. You know, I learned how much of a protector that I am, you know, like when I'm out in the community and I see things happening and I see people being aggressive against like some cashier or some door greeter or something like that, I learned that I will stand up for people, you know, and say, no, that's not okay, you know, and that was I mean, I enjoyed that part about getting to know myself during the pandemic, because you're isolated. Like you're away from everyone, and then you finally go to the grocery store and you see everyone just like, you know, like animals, just they've been caged and they're ready to go, and like, don't look at me and don't touch me and you're 6 feet too close, and like all the things that went on. I felt like everyone was kind of like losing it, but I was finding myself. I walked through the desert literally with my dog, and like I just started taking pictures because it was springtime when it happened. When we went on the lockdown, it was, you know, April, May. And I went and took pictures of all these like beautiful cactus flowers, and like videos of like bees inside of flowers that are like pollinating them, and like all these things that I found in nature. And I just, every day that I felt isolated and unsure about what was happening, especially with all the news and everything going crazy, and everyone had this extreme point of view. And, you know, I just did not engage in that. I took myself out of it and I started going internal. And I used that time to work on myself and support people around me that needed support. You know, I have a lot of performer friends that were on tour with like Cirque and stuff like that, and they just got shipped home. But they've been on tour for 6 years. They had no home. They had no car. They had no job to go back to. So I made a joke about it, but I'm like, I have COVID refugees. You know, I had like 3 COVID refugees living in my house, you know, and we all practiced the safety things and, you know, stayed isolated and everything. But everyone had a safe space to be in, you know, and it all worked out for everyone for the best. Like everyone left that house after the pandemic and leveled up and went back and got a better job, went on a different tour, got a job at a different hospital, making way more money. Like everyone left there better, you know? And again, I think it's all about how you look at it, and you can either take it as, you know, this ruined my life and shut my business down, or you can say, wow, I really like found something in me that I didn't know that I had, and I was able to share that with other people and have a positive impact on them when everything else around me was kind of going crazy. At least I can do that, you know?
No, and I feel really honored to even know you and have this conversation with you, because it sounds like you were able to find beauty in the chaos. Because
Yes.
people watching from the outside looking in, it's like, what are you talking about? The world's falling apart. Like, that was me. You can ask my husband. I wanted to rip myself out of my own skin.
Yeah.
And I'm an extreme extrovert. And when you're faced with yourself, dun, 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 you start to realize how much trauma is still inside you. So many unprocessed disasters. And unlike yourself, I kind of wish I tagged along and took photos outside, because nature probably would have helped my soul. But I would confine myself in these 4 walls. And instead of taking courage to do the work, at the time, I was a victim. I chose to be a victim.
Yeah.
I would complain, make excuses. I actually left beauty for a while when that was my greatest passion. And, you know, what matters is like we're here now, and what matters is we took the time now to level up. But I just love and admire that you took time, even when things were falling apart, you were still helping people. Like you said, there was people that were literally homeless. Like, that's amazing. So there's no accident to your success. And I feel like this spirituality, this ability for you to be a light and to reach out and teach these people, that says so much about who you are, Justin. And if you don't tell yourself enough in the mirror, I believe you are truly a gift in this world. I truly believe you're such a light in the city, and even that opportunity, LA, Hollywood, and who knows where. I'm glad you're here.
Me too.
I'm like, please don't leave. Stay here and keep flying.
It was something that I kept like seeing. And again, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I would probably be living there full time right now and not here. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's finding the light, finding the gratitude in the situations. Also, the pandemic was a big like level up for me drawing boundaries and having healthy boundaries with people, because people were no longer able to hold their healthy boundaries, and they were lashing out in ways that they had never lashed out before because they were stressed financially, they were stressed emotionally, they were locked in their house with their kids, their husband, their boyfriend, their whatever the situation may be. And life is not normal, and not everyone can cope with that. And so you start to see true colors, and you start to see what people are really made out of, you know, like what they are made of. You know, and I'm like, wow.
I'm still in denial too, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. And like it changed some relationships that I have, but that's okay. You know, those relationships that changed and we went our different ways, it actually was beneficial for both of us. For both of us. That includes biology. Even if it's your biological family, you do not have to stay attached to toxicity, to negativity, to abuse, to, you know, you don't have to stay connected to that kind of stuff, you know, and it really doesn't matter who it is. You know, you can hold reverence for someone or love or appreciation for someone and not have them impact your life. You know, there's a whole, I hate to say it, but one whole side why I dropped the Barlow portion of my name and I just go by Justin Wesley, that happened after the pandemic and when I opened my space. And it was a very interesting thing. And it has to do with like my father and his side of the family and things like that. I love all of them, but they have an extreme belief system that I don't fit into, you know? And for a long, long time, I just would try to do it, I know you guys don't agree with my lifestyle and my life choices and things like that, but you're my family. I love you. I want to be part of your life. But then the more I started to see come out, I could say, if this is really what you believe, if this is really what you think, then there's no way you actually feel the way that you say you feel about me. And then they started to actually vocalize those things, you know. It doesn't matter what you do. I love you, but I may not agree with this. I may not agree with that. And, you know, you're going to go to hell and you're going to do this. And I'm like, no, that's not what I believe, you know, at all. And if you believe that about me and you're not trying to come from a place of compassion and love, then why? Why do I need you here to take me down, to make me feel less than, right? So that's where you draw your boundary and you're like, I love you and I wish the best for you from afar. I can do that from here. I don't have to do that in your space. And that's a way of, again, protecting my energy and not getting caught up in their toxicity, in their trauma, in their drama, in their insecurities, in their failures, because all the things that they're throwing at you are the things that they really feel about themselves. You know, you're not a good person. Really? You're the one out here telling people they're not a good person. You're the one out here telling people they're going to go to specific places. You're the one out here tearing down. So if that's your view, I accept that, but I don't agree with that. And, you know, this is how I can just put distance between us so you don't have to live in that kind of realm anymore, you know?
Man, even as you're sharing that, you must have had a lot of work done because that is so mature. I'm like, are you kidding? Because I know, like, I know people listening and watching felt that
Oh
because
yeah.
I felt that right now. And it's not even about, you know, a specific aspect of life. Like, it could even be a career choice,
Yeah.
who you date, where you
Yes.
live. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm Korean, so we're very prideful for reasons. But when I moved to Vegas, it was a stereotype, and I grew up very religious. And I always joke to people, it's not your fault or your power to choose who you are born into. Like, again, God bless all the people, but it's how we use our life and utilize life to be whatever we want to be. And just, you really touched my heart when you talked about how even at a kid, young age, you were in your cowboy boots in your diaper and just like, I have pictures still half naked on a beach with the towel, just like, hey, in a bikini. I didn't even go through puberty, but literally I was just confident even when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and it wasn't for anyone. I
Yeah.
was just chilling, and I'm like, okay, here I am. But
So
I love it.
in the religion and spirituality aspect of it, I grew up in a very religious background, like Southern Baptist, like woof, yeah, hellfire, all of that. But I obviously knew I didn't fit into that. So as a child, I actually searched for religion that would fit me because I did live in Louisiana, Bible Belt. You could throw a rock and hit a church on any corner. And so at about 12 years old, I started walking to churches by myself on Sundays. My parents went to one church that I didn't feel welcome at, even at that young age, because people like to project their things on you, and I would walk to the Methodist church, and I went there for a while until some things happened where I didn't feel welcome. And then I would try, the Church of Christ, and then I would try all the different Lutheran and this and that. And then because of doing that and going into all these different churches and seeing the different ways of worship, I started recognizing that there was like a theme, there was a thread that kind of ran through each one of them. They may explain it a little differently, they may call it something different, but it doesn't matter if you're Buddhist, if you're, Catholic, if you're Muslim, whatever. There's always this one and the things that you're supposed to do to get there. And they're all kind of really similar, and so I started really looking at that and going, okay, everybody that's not this religion can't be like going to the hell place. Everybody that's this religion can't be going to the hell place. Like, what kind of God would be like, you picked the wrong one, and so sorry, I'm going to pull your ticket? Like, no, all the things that you guys are teaching me go directly against that. And then now I'm this like abomination. I'm like, but I thought God doesn't make mistakes. So if he doesn't make mistakes, how am I here? And that's how I know that I'm accepted from the higher power, the source, the universe. And I have a little bit different way of thinking about it. You're like saying you're born into a family and, you don't always have to stay with them. I actually think that our higher self chooses a path before we come down here, and we sign up for things like, I'm going to be your mom. I'm going to be your dad. I'm going to be your brother. I'm going to be your brother that passes away. And that's going to teach you how to have loss, and what it's like to feel comfort from your family in a time of loss. Or I'm going to be your first boyfriend that's going to cheat on you and teach you not to trust everybody. And, I'm going to be, your first husband, and I'm going to give you your first child, and then I may pass. And then that's going to give you the child that's supposed to be here, but then allow you to have a relationship with your true soulmate, your true partner, right? And I don't think any of it is by accident. Every person that we come across in our world, in our life, has the ability to make an impact on you. And that's even down to the homeless person that walks into your space like, I'll clean for you, I just need a bus ticket. You know what? If I see in that person that there is a genuineness, there is a need, there is a struggle, they're not just going to go use this to drink or do drugs or what have you, I'm going to say yes. You know, what my heart tells me to do in those situations is what I do, you know. Yes, here, is there nothing I can do? I don't need you to do anything for it. I want you to take that and do what you need to do with that, you know? And then again, I mean, we can look at that as like paying it forward and stuff like that, because so many people have done that for me throughout my life. From the most unexpected places comes this acceptance and this, I mean, they believe in you. They see something in you that you didn't really see. And through their eyes, you get to experience that, you know? And I think if you just keep doing that, you know, I mean, really, how can you go wrong if you just keep doing it like that?
Man, no, and this was a very in-depth conversation. I love how like we skipped the coffee date. I'm like, we're just gonna record a podcast and talk about life. But wow. So what I want to ask you, since you've dropped so many gems and amazing perspectives about life, like I'm definitely gonna apply them as well. Give me the 3 life lessons you would tell your younger self.
Oof, that's a really
Only
good one.
3.
Only 3, right? Well, my younger self was a very different self than I am now. So the advice that I would give to him is, or just what I would want him to know, not really advice, but like would want him to know that you are stronger than you ever thought was possible. Like, you got it, you know? The other thing is that you are truly loved on this planet. You are truly loved, and you're going to touch people's lives, and people are going to touch your life in a way that changes you for the better every time. And then the last piece of advice I would give him is don't wait so long to get healthy.
I love that. I love that. Man, thank you so much for
of
sharing.
Of course, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Honestly, you guys, like I was kind of holding back a tear the entire conversation. There was actually no moment of just easy relief. But honestly, like this is why I do the podcast for y'all. Like this is a source for you guys to learn, open up your heart, and, you know, be vulnerable. As you can hear from both of our journeys, nobody's perfect. And it does and doesn't matter where you started. It's about how you react and respond from life, finding beauty in the chaos. So please support our amazing soul, Justin Wesley, and beyond just hair. He has so many life wisdom to share. So until next time, protect your peace, and we'll catch you in the next episode. See y'all.